I just need to get used to that. The thinker problem is that other people were in fact emotionally correct, and that you just need to get over that. You need to work
they
up.
can-
No, see, it's like when my mom.
or other people can evolve from their primitive feeling state.
Here's the problem, though, is that as part of logic, feelings play a role. And I think it's actually kind of adorable when I talk to Polar FI sometimes, how they react to that.
How so?
How so?
Well, can I say something real quick? I don't know.
Go
Before I forget it, it just reminds me really big of a time when my mom's a huge feeler, and I was like, getting into trouble doing drugs, but I'm super good at not portraying that. So there's no evidence whatsoever of me doing this. But she just totally assumed it and just said like, no, you're doing this. I feel you're doing this, and got me in trouble. And she was totally right. But like, my biggest argument was like, you have no proof that I'm doing any of this. I'm like the perfect kid to you. You know what I mean? Right. Like, how do you know this?
So that's, I think a lot of times, what's being seen, or like what's being identified as like what you don't like is the overabundance of feelings. It's like when logic's like the connection. Really, what I'm talking about is like the connection of logical systems and like emotion isn't mixing, because when those two properly meet, that's when you get a lot of the. Is when you get a lot of the best thinking, is when you have an awareness of logical systems and also an awareness of the human animal and how we understand or react to our logical systems, or how we perceive or how we judge them. And so it's like, I think a lot of times it's like, when somebody says like, oh, emotions have values, or like that they're intelligent to have too, as I was talking about, like Polar FI sometimes reacts like, what? Like just this reaction to it, like, I don't know, that doesn't sound right. I'm totally, because you're like, no, I'm totally working off of my understanding of logic. It's like, I don't have that feeling shit, but I got this logical stuff. I'm doing fine. It's like all I understand. It's like
even if you have it, you just ignore it. Like that's not.
But it's not.
Logical.
I think where I find that thing that I'm talking about, where it's like I find like when Eric talks about emotions, and there's this sort of reductionist mentality towards the actual feeling component of it, or people getting upset or something like that. It's like that. That's not all that it is. That's more the personal aspect of it. For yourself, that's more along the lines of the sensation of feeling. But as it pertains in the more abstract realm, having an awareness of how your feelings affect your ability to make logical judgments is a feeling related aspect that does tie into logic. That's what I'm saying. They meet. It's not saying that, oh, if you have good FI, you don't need any of that TI shit. That's not what I'm saying.
Our FI is stuck in the permanent I value TI position.
Right. But I mean, like in those sort of like polar positions or whatever. I get it. It's not like, oh, you ENTPs, you need to get that FI shit sorted out. Like, it's not like, you need to become a patron saint of fucking FI or something like that. But if you were to look at me, like, I'm going to tell you, hey, there's work that you need to do in the realm of FI, because there's no way that with a straight face you're going to tell me that I don't need to be factual. It's like, that's where my polar lands. It's like in the realm of TE, there's no way you're going to tell me that being able to make rational judgments on bodies of facts and information is not relevant to existing as a human being.
Right.
I don't know. I'm always for less TE in the world. So.
But no TE. Less than adequate. You would probably never advocate.
TE gets the TI done or NE done or whatever the fuck.
Here's the thing: you probably never advocate less than enough. You're saying you'd always advocate for less than there is, but maybe there's too much. But maybe if you were to see an example of it being less than enough, you would advocate more.
Possibly.
I'll take that.
Possibly. That's a great answer. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I like possibly as an answer because I am speaking in abstract terms, with all these different things. So it's like unless it's directly, observed or something like that, then I absolutely take possibly as an answer.
Possibly skinny. Honestly, I think I could argue possibly for like most things, right? If not everything. Possibly, I could argue that.
But part of it was the tone and the inflection of the possibly. Distinctly lacking the angry or overtly angry, whatever, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I just
it's really
hold on. I
What's
just
up?
had a thought. What if the emotional reactivity that you see in some FI polar, or maybe not even FI polar, the emotional reactivity that you see when it comes to people utilizing their feelings, what if that is a defense mechanism? Like I'm talking about the negative emotions. What if that is more of a defense mechanism to, rather than, like, they're utilizing that rather than having to go into the logic of their emotions or the meeting of the logic with their emotions. What the hell is that sound? Oh, that's my computer. Sorry about that. I can't really help that.
I'm trying to. I don't know if I exactly get what you're saying.
I would kind of agree with seeing that because I think that's something that ENTPs get really angry at is that I do it and Eric does it. It's that firing the guns off so that you can't look at anything clearly for the smoke.
It's that thing that I always mock. It's that mockery thing that I do of Eric, where I'm like, it's a debate tactic, where I just acting like I'm yelling. It's like drowning out everything with air horns, because then you can't.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of like sticking your fingers in the ears and going, la 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 la. We're not talking about. Not listening to you.
But I think what's funny is like in that argumentative
unwillingness to examine that stuff is extremely frustrating. I think.
And so that's where like the T aspect can become a. I think that like the T equivalent. Like I'm gonna phrase it this way: like people launching into tirades about, like when Eric's saying, you're not, it's like that's not what I'm talking about. You're talking about this thing and then somebody bringing up other things. I'm not saying that Eric doing that in that way. Like when he's talking about people needing to address points, I understand that. So I'm not relating this particularly to him, but when you see people launching into tirades about where that doesn't make sense or that they start really, I'm talking like ENTPs, like when they start engaging that TI as sort of like a cover to like, let's focus on this. I view that as the thinking equivalent to feelers saying, oh no, you don't need to raise your voice. Now come on. That sort of like, trying to use that as a buffer between.
The thing is, we get a lot of adrenaline, though. That's what happens. That's why we do what we do. It's not like I personally have been told I come across as maybe a very intense, maybe a bit frightening when I'm all up in my when I'm very engaged in a conversation, right? I can look very intense. I can look angry, even though I'm not. So I think a lot of people misunderstand that. I think that's the worst thing about being an ENTP is people misinterpret what I use. What my encouragement. What the fuck is words? Fuck. Been up for too long. You get what I mean? In any way.
Yeah, you get
They see a lot more like FI meaning to what we're doing a lot of times than there is, or meaning in general. Like,
Yeah, it's more innocent.
yeah, I think that is. I think we're almost
I
like
think
It's
honestly more
innocent
innocent.
debating. It really is.
I think it's funny how you worded that though. It's like that we're seeing more than there is. You could also word that as you're not seeing as much as there is.
You kind of can, yeah, if you want to do it that. And they're pretty much the same thing. I definitely think yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's no, when it comes to things, I don't know. For me, as an ENTP, I don't know. I keep saying I don't know. It's my comment, but
I did it. I'm throwing this in there. Characteristics of a type 9.
yeah,
The words I don't know. It's to buy time.
yeah, that makes sense.
So don't worry about it.
It's like
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much. It's because I want to keep talking, and
Yeah.
But shit, I probably just lost what I was gonna say. What was I saying?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, it's the FI shit. Yeah, just the ignorance of FI just really plays into when you're really interested in a topic and you want to explore that topic. It's just FI is the last thing that should stop the exploration. You know.
Yeah.
Do you guys
shouldn't
believe
worry
that
about it.
people feel differently? Like somebody feel, like if you have a regret, you may feel in the stomach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And another person may have it, feel it in another way. Do you believe that that could be the case?
See, that was the hardest thing for me to understand was that there was like I thought of it way more in a general sense.
It
Like
wasn't
you described
acceptable
it.
though.
I'm saying like
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an example.
okay.
Yeah, but please talk.
No, my bad. I thought you were talking to me.
I'm talking to everybody, like whoever's listening.
Yeah, definitely. I can
I
agree with that.
I nominate
Yeah,
Shane
it's
as
like-
everybody.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
the-
I'm super tired. I should go to bed soon anyway. So
that much is almost hard for me to reconcile.
What was that? Can you repeat the first part of that?
I was saying that, like, even the idea of labeling the feelings to that degree, or to much degree at all, I've always had a really hard time reconciling that. Because people call their feelings all these things, and I've always had issues with that. Like, I've the best I can usually parse it down, like, all I can really be sure is, like, there's, like, good and bad. Like, good feeling, bad feeling. I kind of get anger, I think. That feeling that we call anger, but like the nuances, like the number of types of emotions people seem to talk about, like I can't seem to differentiate that many.
yeah,
But, yeah. Like, they're not complicated. The lepers on the island are pretty, yeah.
I just get the like. I could get the perspective in a sense. It's hard to see importance, especially, but
It's always outside framing that, to me, it's so often the context and the framing that actually labels it, rather than the internal kind of thing itself.
yeah, it's understanding it as a possibility, but not as an actual internal thing. You know?
Yeah. It's like, in this context, I guess this would be called X, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, but it doesn't actually seem any.
It's irrelevant.
Not actually.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Yeah, internally the context is irrelevant. Like, it doesn't differentiate
Exactly. Yeah.
something. I don't know. It's not like not nuanced thing. I'm always talking about, like, it's really not very. Yeah, it's like it's not a lot of detail to it.
You know. It's not specific whatsoever.
Well, it's gotten less so. Like, I feel like it's gotten less so because I feel like, going back to our island analogy, I feel like when I was a kid, people built all these islands and said, "That's the island, that's the island, and you're just like, and then eventually I like realized that none of those islands were real.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
just
shit
like,
ton
so
of
where's
islands.
the freaking island? You're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Is there the island then? Yeah.
Is there an island? Like, all of these islands were fakes.